perspective is key. I feel like the more we allow ourselves to live, the more we become immersed in the ebbs and flows of life. Life as we know it becomes the anxiety of the past, or worry for the future, or anything that has to do with being stuck in the moment. Not being able to take that step back and realize that there's a lot more than your anxiety in your mind. So what are we to do when we lose track of ourselves in this way? I found that the best way to stay on top of yourself is to think in some sort of a third person perspective. And I think that people often do this. They take steps back, or they try to imagine, you know, how it would be in other people's shoes. Or, they put themselves in certain scenarios and whatnot, but we don't do it necessarily in a positive way. You know, I feel like much of that third person perspective that we currently have has to do with the anxiety and worry that we bring into our daily life. Like, let me imagine if this situation goes wrong, or I'm going out to this. Let me imagine worst case scenarios, and to some extent, you know, uh, that's beneficial. You know, that does help you plan for the future and whatnot. It's like the stoic idea that I don't really agree with is like embracing the negativity around you, but it's not really what I'm here to talk about. But in general, realizing that you take that perspective for granted kind of gives this opportunity to alter it in a way. I found that perspective is very important. Perspective is key. So I guess like how to use that properly to our advantage would be to allow ourselves to look at our issues or specific real things from that third person perspective. Um, like when you're going through something and you're overcome with emotion and anxiety and worry, stress, the best thing for us is to take a step back and try to have that third person perspective about that issue or something. I find that the more we are personal to the instance, the more we are personal to the situation, the more deeply impacted we are by certain nuances and little twists and turns within that situation. And uh, you know, many of us college students are getting ready for finals week and whatnot at this time, and it's a lot of stress. It's very stressful to know that like a lot of what you're doing right now has a direct correlation to how you're doing in the future, and you have to do good on these exams. You have to do good, blah blah blah, etc. etc. And it's easier to get trapped in that stress, that anxiety of, oh, my test might go bad, or this, that, and the other. I mean, my bottom line is at the end of the day, extra worrying won't change the outcome. It has to do with how I attack the problem, how I study, how I commit to doing better, how I display my want and desire to do better in my day to day action. And part of that is having that third person perspective. It's about, altering yourself from the moment, taking yourself away from your mind. Because your mind isn't everything, but your mind tends to seep into everything. It's like projection. My last video, I love when this stuff ties together. Actually, I do. Um, but it does. It seeps into everything around us. Like how we feel about ourselves, how we perceive our intelligence, how we perceive our ability to retain information is a directly correlated to how we actually do so. Um, for example, you know, up until I would say the eighth grade, ninth grade, I was terrible at school. And it wasn't because I felt like it wasn't. Well, I did feel like I was stupid. That was part of it. Like I grew up not thinking I was as intelligent as my peers, and that mainly had to do with like I think not being able to have that perspective. And I know I wasn't really expected to at a young age, but having that perspective is what kind of saved me. It was realizing that I'm just gonna do it. If it's humanly possible, you too can do it. And it started with my meditation. getting on top of my mind, making sure that I wasn't really dictated by my overall emotions. Not saying that I was trying to get rid of the emotion, but more so view them rather than express them directly. You know, being able to control your reactions is to be able to control yourself in many ways. So getting on top of that allowed me to do a lot of stuff better. And then coming into college, high school, my perspective on education, I always feel like I'm able to do it. If it's last minute, I have to write a 5-page paper. Every part of my body is like, okay, I got that 5-page paper. I'm just gonna do it. It's gonna get done regardless. You know, no matter how much I stress about it, how much I worry about it, it's something I have to do, and it's something I will do at the end of the day. And that perspective is key here. I feel like I'm only able to think like that most times because I realize a lot of stuff isn't that personal. A lot of stuff isn't that black and white. Like I might do good, I might do bad, but I'm going to try my best to do good. I'm going to do what I can to do the best I can. And I realize that, you know, the time wasted with stressing and anxiety, stressing about whether or not I will do good, is only going to limit my ability to do good. It's like doing a sport. Some people work well under pressure. Some people work well under stress. Some people work bad under anxiety. I feel like there are a lot of dichotomies between these things. There's a lot of left and right. Like sometimes I feel like I do great under pressure. Like educationally, I do great. If I have to public speak, I do great. But like with athletics and stuff, I feel like I also do good in some areas too. But it's when we let that anxiety and fear of, you know, the near future get to it. Like I used to long jump back in high school, and I remember there was one district meet where I didn't know whether or not I was going to qualify for regionals. I didn't happen to, unfortunately, but it was my final jump, and I had like fouled the first two, which means like I didn't get any points or I didn't get any marks for it. And I was just so nervous that I just ran and gave like a very anxious jump, to say the least. And I did a lot worse than I could have, because I was so in my head about that moment, so in my head about, you know, what's next to come, that I failed to be within the present moment and allow myself to overcome the situation. I feel like a lot of us attack our problems at the wrong time. You know, we don't really address it in the present. We either worry for the future, like something's coming up, oh, I'm going to start stressing about it now, like I'm going to attack it now. Or, you know, we pass the situation, we don't handle it like we actually wanted to, and we address it from the past. We go like, oh man, I should have done this, should have done that. And at the end of the day, you know, if all you can do is think about it, it's probably not worth thought. And that's a quote I've had for a minute, but I feel like it's true. The perspective that we hold and carry with us is ultimately what guides us through the world. It's like the paradigm of human consciousness. I have a tattoo of it for sure. I really like it. Basically, your conscious goes into your subconscious, and then that becomes your body, but it's interpreted as your reality. You know, how you allow your mind to be stuck on certain things becomes what you readily think about, what you are. This is where I think like the idea of like manifestation has like a real application. How you think about yourself, how you think you are, is how you know, will act. If I'm constantly in my head thinking, oh, I'm stupid, I won't do good, or I can't study, or I'm not able to do this, not able to do that, when that situation where I have to do that comes, I'm going to already be thinking that. I'm going to already be feeling that. I'm going to already be embodying that idea. And that's why I think like you should never think about yourself or talk about yourself in a negative light. I think complaint in like a general sense is especially about the self is somewhat unnecessary. And that's not to say like people can't complain about certain things they need to change. It's one thing to know that you need to work on something, but it's one thing to compound upon this idea that you are a certain way. I feel like who we are is never solid. He who thinks the journey is over is the one that's truly lost. That is to say that, you know, as much as we worry, as much as we get stuck within these ideas, the more we cement them, the more we allow them to actually be. So the point is, to take life at a distance, to realize it's more important to kind of acknowledge a pattern. What I've realized is we have generally the same thoughts in rotation throughout the day, and fail to break this binding that kind of forces us to be the same person in and out. And that's not to say, like, I used to talk about how I think that you could change who you are in a matter of seconds, and ultimately that's unrealistic. I mean, it's true in a very minute way, but it's unrealistic. People can't do that. So it starts on a daily level in that perspective, and being present with that perspective. Taking the effort to change your perspective and trying to live out life the way you see fit. If you watch this long, appreciate y'all. I love being back to this. I got some podcasts coming out soon with some of my student peers, friends, close associates, and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. If you made it this far, like and subscribe. I don't know. I usually don't say that in videos, but chalk it. I appreciate y'all.